For sure, for sure. Let me pause really quickly because your boy had to click a button. And so everybody didn't get a chance to hear most of what y'all just said because it was on me. So I'm going to go back really quickly because people are now seeing you and have you introduce yourselves one more time. They'll see the whole thing on the other side, but introduce yourself really quickly and then we'll dive in from where we just were. Let's start with Eva and we'll work to Lex after that. Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Eva Loren. Most people just call me Eva. I'm the founder of an organization called Black on Black Education, and we are all about supporting schools, providing resources that help schools empower student voice so that they can add positivity to their school culture.
Hey y'all, my name is Alexia. I am a kindergarten teacher by day, mom and wife all around. I'm a hip hop dancer, choreographer, and fitness instructor. I'm so happy to be in community with y'all, and I really believe that it starts with the foundation with our youth. So I'm excited to get started into this conversation. Rob?
Rann Miller, educator, author, writer. Pleasure to be with everyone here. Looking forward to build and really adding some meat to this conversation.
Rakim, the insightful teacher, educator, consultant, lifelong learner, lifelong student, and I love it here. And I love community. I love just being in conversation. So I'm looking forward to learn from y'all as much as y'all will probably learn from me.
So, good people who are seeing this now, we are engaged in a conversation around on this great day where a man whose legacy is sanitized and whitewashed, a man who, for all intents and purposes, his quotes will get kicked, pulled, kicking and screaming out of context, and we began our time backstage talking about the quote that this hinges from, and that is the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. When we think about that quote, and if we were really just checking the pulse of education, we began by asking the question, how are we doing with teaching and building up critical thinkers? And I believe, Eva, you started. If you want to just dip back into that brilliance you just said, and then we'll go from there.
I'm gonna try my best because it comes off the dome, so I gotta. But I was basically talking about, as a high school educator, we have students in our classroom that are not. That often it is difficult to get them to want to critically think about things, and I see that as a way that you're asking them to do work in a way that they have not been asked to do it previously. And so because they don't understand that being given information and then having to regurgitate said information isn't learning, when you're asking them to let's just talk about this, they're like, okay, but is this graded? Like, you grading it? And it has this conversation where they feel like grades and education are synonymous, which is not what I said before, but it's what's coming out. And so really I don't think that in the ways that we could be in education, because the system is not set up for that. The system is set up for students to pass a test at the end of the year. And so even if you are an educator that is committed to ensuring that young people are critically conscious, the test is not asking that of them. It's asking them to read the information, regurgitate the information, give an idea, give a thought based off of the information given to them, which is making them into people who are waiting for someone else to answer questions for them. And when we are ancestrally a part of a tradition that says that we must change what the current set of circumstances are for them, when we ask them to question their current set of circumstances, they're not basing it off of what was, because they aren't learning the truth of the history and the people that we stand on the shoulders of. They don't understand their experience to the level that they could, because there's a whitewashing of history that we are watching happen on the back of the 2020 We Love Black People parade. And so it's what do we do now? And I think that as much as educators on an individual level have a lot of ability to push students to get to that place, we're not going to be able to do it in one school year where kids are in our classroom. We're not going to be able to do it in one semester where the kids are in our classroom. And so it's a systemic change that needs to happen in order for us to see the widespread shift from regurgitate information and tell us that you know how to do it to I can critically think and solve problems. And I think that that's all that Dr. Martin Luther King wanted from us, or wants for us, and needs us to continue to fight for.
Yeah. To that point, when we talk about producing critical thought, right? We are, and I want to dovetail this off of what you just said, Eva, and kick it to you, Rann. We're in an age where it's not just a battle for the minds of our youth, but there's misinformation. There is alternative facts. Remember when that was a thing? There's all this out there that our children now have to navigate, right? Um, and so I think it's more critical now than ever to produce critical thinkers who can navigate this world, particularly because if we don't, I would venture to say it's an injustice. What do you think about that, Rand?
Oh, it's absolute injustice. Sort of the pick up on what I was saying before, the way that school is made, it's made like a manufacturing plant where we are pushing young people in and we are pushing them out. Never mind if they need extra help, never mind if they need extra support. We're going to push them in and we're going to push them out. And the purpose of that is for them to become workers, not thinkers. If you have thinkers on the job, they question who's in management in terms of their decision making. They may question who's making the big decisions, and that can change the way things work on the job. So we don't want thinkers, we want workers to keep this thing going. Proof positive was COVID. When COVID went down, not for nothing, I get the argument about, kids need to be in school and, the learning is different. You know who needed them to be in school? Businesses did. Why? So their parents could be at work. Like, that's what we do as a society. And so we don't want young people to think. We don't want them to challenge the way things are. We don't want them to have independent minds to the extent that they are able to process information, think about that information, weigh that information against knowledge that they have learned in order to make an informed decision. No, we want young people to just go ahead, do what they're told, and be about what we want them to be about. And that's essentially what's happening with young people today. It's not their fault. I don't blame those young people at all. I blame us, the adults. And so we are doing not only them a disservice, we are doing our world, our society an absolute disservice because we're not worried about empowering them. One of the things that I always tell teachers is, if you really want young people to learn, why don't you meet them where they are? Instead of giving them this one-off project that has nothing to do with their circumstances, their prior knowledge, the information that they have, what about what you can do to impact their community using the knowledge that you're trying to teach? Like, make it something for them that they can be empowered to do something to change their own circumstances and the circumstances of their community, because we are communal folk. But again, you don't want communal folk, because when the community comes together, they rise up together to challenge the oppressive forces in our society, the systemic structures that are harming us. And so that's really what it comes down to. And unfortunately, it may seem like the dream is dead, but I do believe that based on just being in this circle in the community right here and knowing the educators that I know, that the dream is very much alive. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say it didn't feel like an uphill battle.
I want to quickly highlight a couple of things in the chat that some folks are tapping in with. Our good sis Brooke says that public schools don't let teachers be critical thinkers. My. And Ms. Johnson says, hence standardized testing and convergent thinking versus divergent and task-based learning. They want to know what standard we're teaching to meet the test students are taking. Yeah, I think those are very real, right? So I'm faced with that reality, right? So here's where I want to push our conversation just a little bit, and I want you, Lex, and Rakim to jump in here. There is a sense in which while I'm fighting to change the system, I'm also complicit with it. So I am fighting to produce critical thinkers, yet when I come in and I have to go in with the Danielson framework rubric and go into a classroom, I'm looking to see, is the standard on the board? I'm looking to see, is the essential question posted? So in a sense, even though I know good teaching when I see it, even though I can look, and here's the other thing, students know good teaching when they see it. Even though all of that's true, my job hinges on, well, what did Charlotte say? Did Charlotte say that was a 4? Did Charlotte say that was a 3? And you could input whatever rubric you're talking about, TNTP, Danielson, whatever rubric. I'm charged with having to do that. So I'm kind of complicit in a system that is drastically in need of change. What do you say to that, Rakim?
Man, you put me on the spot. Ah, man, you were talking real good. Woo. So one, I'm start off like this, right? And the whole question, I think for me, I have more questions than answers, but they're questions for us to reflect, not so much, right? And when I was thinking about it, I love the question of, is the dream dead? Right? Like, right? And I think, Rann, you said it. For me, no, the dream is not dead, right? It's in us and all around us. Now, the question I have is, the system in which the dream operates, is that dead? And for me, it's a yes, right? And that's that juxtaposition, right? And for me, I think that we have literally dreamed a dream and a system that our dream has actually been adding life to a dead system, right? To the fact where literally it's almost killing ourselves to make the system work so the dream can stay alive, right? And I think for me, one of the things, and we're on Dr. King, right? And I'm gonna come back to your point, right? One of Dr. King's most famous speeches was, what does it mean to be a drum major, right? He talks about the drum major, right? He talks about the drum major, the person who wants to be first, who wants to be recognized, who wants to be in front, who wants recognition. Like, we all want recognition, right? But when you talk about going into a classroom with the Danielson framework and all of that stuff, I'm thinking about, I have the question is, what are you trying to be recognized for? What are we trying to move forward in the classrooms? And for me, I think most of us are trying to be drum majors for white supremacy. And for me, most folks, when you go inside with the white supremacist framework, you don't get to beat to the drum of the culture. Some of us are playing the drum of liberation and revolutionary work, and some of us are just being played like a drum. Come on now. So for me, it's really thinking about a reflection in terms of, you have to decide, and Dr. King, a drum major for justice, a drum major for history, a drum major for liberation, a drum major for self-actualization. For me, and with the Danielson rubric and your things, you should be asking yourself different questions, right? You have to decide if you're going to be a drum major or be played like a drum. In some ways, when you go inside the classroom with those unfamiliar tones, right? The kids don't recognize you, right? And most of you are offbeat. And for me, when you walk inside of a classroom and you offbeat, you have to tell yourself, I'm not two-stepping right. Some of you are coming into our community, into the classrooms, trying to teach us how to electric slide. And then when folks say, those are not the steps, you're deciding these are the steps now. This is the rubric. This is the standard. These are the ways in which we should walk and talk and be. And for me, with that mentality, most of you need to step down, right? And for me, there's so much mediocrity in this field that is not allowed anywhere else. And I'm gonna stop it right there so folks can get in, because I think you have to make a choice, and that's what I'm trying to say. You have to make a choice. You have to do what Dr. King said: is be a drum major for justice, drum major for truth, drum major for revolutionary action, or you can keep on going inside classroom with that rubric and those things that they're telling you to do, and keep on being played like a drum. I'm gonna stop there, let folks in, and I'll come back later.
Oh no, we gotta get a ratatata on that one.
Right.
We're taking it back.
I got
Yeah, man. So let me bring you in here, Lex, because you teach the babies.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about critical thinking, most people, I assume here, most people are thinking, are we preparing in secondary school for kids to be critical thinkers? But that starts a lot earlier. The foundation must be laid a lot earlier. So talk to me about that process. Talk to me about what you're seeing, particularly from, in the primary grades, and what needs to happen in order for the dream to breathe life into the dream, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. So I think a lot of the time, us primary folk, we focus so much on the intermediate kids because they're the ones that are really pushing and they're about to graduate. They're about to really change and make impact on, our society as we know it. However, a lot of the times we forget the foundation of how learning begins, the process of learning, where learning starts, and that starts from as early as preschool, as early as infancy. Our kids are growing in their brain capacity and their learning, and they often get the this idea that they can't, or it's too much for them, or it's too hard for them to learn these things. And what happened is we're giving our students and our kids a disservice because they can in fact learn these things. And it's again a part of the system of, let's just say they can't, because if they can't, then by the time they get to high school, it's too late to help them to be critical thinkers. And that's where we're facing the problem of these kids, don't really have the history because they're just learning it now. They don't have the ability to, involve themselves in these conversations without maybe feeling a little insecure, or the confidence isn't there because they haven't done this since they were little children. And I think that the system is set up for our kids to listen, to be compliant, to answer the question the way I ask, for the teacher to teach and me just sit quietly. And it's again a system, a programming. We're consistently programming our kids and then wondering why they can't do what we expect for them to do, when the educators that are trying to push them, that are trying to get them to think, that are trying to get them to expand their knowledge and their brilliance, and they're stuck in a box that we put them in. So like we really have to start in the foundation of early childhood, start questioning these curriculums, start questioning what histories we are teaching and the lack thereof. I can tell you, as a kindergarten teacher, I push to do the things that I know need to happen, whether or not they say it is allowed to happen. And that's how we have to move in these spaces. Our kids are not going to get any history, science. They're not going to learn about anything because it's not there. It's non-existent. And we have to create these spaces. We have to, go on these curriculum teams and be on these leadership boards and discuss it. And it's not going to be easy. Trust, people are going to look at you sideways and crazy because I'm on it, and they will try to kick you out, and they will try to, go against everything that you're saying. But that's again because they were programmed. They did not learn the histories. You think about it now, I'm learning new things all the time with my students and aside from my students, as an educator, as a person, as a human being. So like we really have to think critically of how we embed the histories and change the way we teach our kids, reimagine what education looks like, really focus on the content that we are teaching instead of just pushing out, computer programmers of just do what I say and click out what I want. Like we gotta change the system, and it starts with our youth. Once they become, that's what they're scared of. If I do something and just the way the brain works, if I'm doing something for children and they're learning as children, it's going to be much harder for you to manipulate them by the time they in middle school and high school, because they've already been taught their excellence, they've been taught their brilliance, they've been taught to question things and to critically think and to analyze stuff. So we gotta push it, and we gotta change it, and it starts with our youth.
I love that framing, right? And I want to highlight something that Crystal said in chat. She said, "I would love to see more layered curriculum. They can learn complex things in layers over the length of their academic career. It doesn't have to be taught everything in one year." Which brings me to a question that I want to pose to. I want to kick it off to you, Eva, because I think about you and student-centered practices and all of that you got going on, and then I want you to jump in, Rann. But educators who are listening are like, "Cool, this sounds wonderful. It's great. You're inspiring me. But how do I do this thing that you are telling me to do?" How might educators prioritize teaching students to think critically versus dictating what to think? Right? How do we do that and foster a questioning and analysis culture in our classrooms? How do we do that?
Oh, child. Because it goes against your natural way of being. So we have to start with why it's hard. It goes against your natural way of being. When I'm sitting there and kids are asking me questions and I'm like, where do you think we could find that? Like, it would be so much easier for me to just give them the answer. So much easier for me to just give them the answer. Right? You find it right here. And that's the thing, it's those small things, right? Well, where would I find Well, type this into Google. These little things, right? So now you're giving them the answer to what to plug in, to how to find the search term, to how to find the answer. And why would they then ever figure out how to do it themselves? And so the first step is understanding that it's not natural. It is going against our natural inclinations, because for many of us, that was not the way that we were engaged with in terms of learning. We asked the question, we expected an answer. The amount of times I've had students side-eye me, or I do my interviews at the end of the school year and they're like, "You could just answer my question, got an attitude." And I could do that, but every time you figured it out, didn't you, my love? So now what? So what does that mean? And they're like, "Oh, you were doing that on purpose." Yeah, it wasn't to be mean, my love. Like, it wasn't because I don't like you. It was because I recognize that if someone keeps giving you the answer, you are never going to see the value in seeing it yourself. So the small ways, like the small tips and tricks, are kids are working on a project. The first time they run into a milestone, you can't answer the question for them. Who do you think you could ask? If they decide to go to the bathroom while you're talking and now they didn't get the directions, "Miss, what do I do?" Who do you think you can ask? That's not me. But I could just repeat myself. And you could just get the answer from somewhere else. Where might you be able to get it from? The slides are on Google Classroom. Directions are always on the slides. That's one way. Another way, you sit next to a peer. You could ask them. That's possible, right? And then at the end of class, it's like, "So why do y'all think I didn't answer no questions today?" What would be the value of me, who already knows how to do the project and who already knows the answer? What would be the value of me not telling you the answer? Because you didn't feel like doing work today. Okay, possible. That's a good one. Somebody else. And you keep going until you get the student to be like, "Because you wanted us to figure it out." We're gotten somewhere. And now even in that moment, I didn't just do the thing. I made them reflect on the thing that I did, so that next time I do it, they know. Now it's, "Don't ask her that. Come here, let me tell you the directions." Because she's not going to do it. Right? And so that's a small way, right? You have people do like, it is one understanding that there's so many times where they are going to mess up. The project's going to look ugly in the end. It's going to be ugly. You told them you didn't want no ugly slides. The slides are terribly ugly. But now what can they learn from that? You gave me a bunch of slides with 17 words on each slide spelled incorrectly. What could we have done differently? And it's not criticizing them to say, you are a terrible student, you're so bad, well, you didn't listen to any of my instructions. It's, well, where could you have found the checklist that I gave you? Where could you have found the answers that I was looking for? How can we change this? Okay, let's do it again. Let's try it again. You want to present again tomorrow to me after school? I love that for you, right? It's giving them the opportunity to make the mistake so that when they make the mistake, they can learn from the mistake. And that's where I like to start. And then it gets so much easier to ask them on the first day back of school, are New Year's resolutions stupid? And for me to be able to sit there and let them talk. That conversation. Okay, so now we just talked about it. Go get the computer, get 3 sources, come back. Now we're gonna have the conversation again. I don't be working, y'all. Do not tell my boss. I don't be working.
Yeah.
Figure it out, babes. Figure it out.
I love that. And I think you're challenging us, because when you think about it, there's something in us that likes to be the sage on the stage. We've been kind of conditioned to be the person that says, all right, you're going to learn, and where you're going to learn it from, I'm going to be your source of knowledge. Please sit down and behold all that I am giving you, right? You come to me empty, you leave full, because I am depositing all of the learning into you. Please hear me. Right. And that's why when there's questions and there's more questions than we really wanted, or there is a disruption that says, I don't understand this, and there's a frustration, we take all of that personally. Why? Because we're the source of learning versus it being a community. But Rann, let me ask you this. Thinking about what Eva just said, and how she's kind of pushing it back on the student to be able to say, no, you have this within you. Now let's say you work it out. I could hear a teacher saying, yeah, but my pacing guide though. Yeah, but that administrator who's going to come in, and they're going to come in with a rubric, and they're going to have some things to say about me. They're going to give me some feedback because I did it this way. What do you say to that, Rann?
I can't curse on here, can I? Right?
It's a brave space. It's a brave space. Go ahead.
Okay. I forget your rubric. Forget your pacing guide. That I'll keep it. I'll keep it. Professional. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that number one, Eva hit all the points. Okay, Eva hit all the points. She is 100% correct. You got to make them kids work. That's definite. Here's what I'll say to your question though, Bobby. I think that you as an educator, you as a teacher cannot be afraid. And this may be harder for first year teachers that are really concerned with keeping their job, but you can't be afraid of, getting in the line of fire, if that makes any sense, or pissing someone off, if that makes sense. If teaching, if you enter the classroom because you're looking to build a career, or you're looking to do something that, there was nothing else for you to do, well, then that stuff might concern you, right? But if you're in there, for me, I teach in Camden. So, I'm from Camden. These kids are like the kids that I grew up with. These are my kids. These are my people. I'm in here for them. I'm not here for no one else. And so I'm going to do what's best for them. I'm not worried about the school's pacing guide. I'm not worried about what this administrator says. I'm not worried about what you score me on, because at the end of the day, the kids speak for me. I don't need that paper to speak for me. So I'm going to do what's necessary for them. And that might rub administrators the wrong way. You can't be afraid of rubbing them the wrong way. Are you going to do what your administrators want, or are you going to do what your young people need? Case in point, I teach AP US history. Normally, an AP US history class is lecture every day, lecture. I only lecture 1 day a week. And I only do that because, there are some things that I do want to tell them that they're not going to hear. 1 day a week, we read in class. We read collectively in class like it's like we're in kindergarten, first, second grade, because to Eva's earlier point, young people aren't conditioned to do the kind of work that we would love for them to do, like read these important nonfiction texts. So we read them in class. We read Black Reconstruction. We've read, Black Marxism. We're reading those kinds of texts together in class, and we go through that. And they complain, and they're like, "Why are we reading this thick book?" And man, Mister, all these pages? Like, yes, all these pages. You know what I mean? So we do that. On Wednesday, we work in writing. We do writing. I can't be a writer and get things put out there and not work with my kids on how to be a better writer. But Mister, you don't teach English. You know what? History teachers have to write. Historians write. So you're going to learn how to write. Thursdays, we do researching. They do research assignments based on the lecture that they had to do. And Friday, we debate. And so they have to do research in preparation for the debate on Thursday for Friday. And then they have to get up and public speak in front of everybody. That's not a typical AP history class. That's not going with what the guide says. But my point is to make sure that these young people are prepared for the next venture, whatever that is, whether it's higher education, whether it is, working in a professional setting after high school, whatever it is, they need to be able to know how to think. They ought to be able to know how to speak, how to read, how to research. Eva, again, blowing her up. She made a great point talking about the idea of, figure it out on your own. I have my kids like, the greatest weapon and that they tell you is an evil in the classroom, these things, use that to your advantage. You got to use what the young people use in order to get the young people to go where you want them to go. I have them download a dictionary. I have them download news sources that are international, whether it's BBC, Al Jazeera. Many of my students are Latina. They are from the Caribbean, from Latin America. Wherever your homeland is, download their news on your phone so that way you know what's going on in your country and how that jives with what the United States is saying about your country. Find all that stuff. Use your phone to your advantage. I tell my young people, teachers have to do that as well. That's something that the administrators, particularly in high school, don't want you. No cell phones in the classroom unless it's You know what? Do what you have to do. You're going to have to piss some folk off. If you don't want to be like what Rakim said and perpetuate and be a tool for white supremacy, if you really about liberating young people, then you're going to have to make some folks mad. And that's okay. You're going to you got to not be afraid to push it. And I know that's hard. I'm not telling everybody what to do. That's what I've done. But that's what you're going to have to do for young people. You're going to have to step out. And when you're willing to do that, when you're willing to piss people off intentionally and not care, you'd be surprised all the ideas that come to your head. You'd be surprised when your young people see that you're going to do that, what ideas they give you. That's how you begin to do that kind of work.
I want to highlight something that Channing said in chat, and something that Brooke said in chat. Channing said, I want educators to stop using curriculum as instruction and instead use the curriculum as a resource to instruct. Teachers are blindly following the script without thinking about what kids need. Thank you for that, Channing. 100% agree. And Brooke is stepping on my toes here. She says administrators don't want to see kids struggle. They want to see kids with all the right answers. When I think about that, I want to come to you on this one, Ron, and I want to go right to you, Lex. I think about the fact that it is here's that messy middle, because tomorrow we got to go back to classrooms. Tomorrow, I got to do walkthroughs handed down administration that says that they need to see these elements, and these are the elements of an effective lesson and an effective. And hear me, not everything on that thing is bad. Small group instruction is a great element, a tool, a resource to be able to guide, right? Having students turn and talk, these little moves that are supposed to be helpful, those aren't bad things. However, when the those good things become the only thing or the primary thing without any level of responsiveness to student need, I feel like we're in danger of something. We're in danger of missing something. So my question is, if we blindly follow the script as Channing suggests in chat, what are we in danger of what are we risking, Rakim? What's at stake?
You know, I love all the comments. And you know what the reality is? They will fire you for less. Yo. Yo.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Yo, I got terminated for wearing a hat in school. I've been pushed out of places, and y'all know, like, I've been pushed out of places. My professional development's been scrapped because of the names. Like there are students who are getting kicked out of school because they're wearing locks. Being yourself is risky. Like being yourself, because of the system and how it is set up, right? They tell you, how to be a certain way. And I'm going to lean on to Carter G. Woodson's quote. And he talks about if you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about their actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you make a man feel that he's inferior, you do not have to compel them to accept an inferior status, for they will seek it themselves. If you make a man think they are justly an outcast, you do not have to order them to go to the back door. They will go without being told. And if there's no back door, their very nature will demand one. So most of us are going to the back, not because we have to, right? But because of the programming in which you think that your job being in front of kids is protected by you going to the back or taking the back seat. Yo. And the reality of the situation is, when you're dealing in a system of such, none of it's protected. None of it's protected. They can take away your situation like this. Goddamn, our salaries are not even protected, because if they were, we were getting paid more. But that's another topic for another day. The risk we have, my mentor, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and I say this a lot, he used to always say, you're born to win, but programmed to fail. And most of the time when you go inside of a classroom and you're fearful to be yourself, you are taking our children who are born to win and you are programming them to fail, right? And I think the detriment of that is most folks, you can say education is the key to the future. But some of y'all, instead of using the key to unlock the genius of others, y'all got, what's those wind-up toys? That key in your back. And that key, instead of using it, you're being used to lock the genius of others. And then once they are finished with you, they will throw away that key in your back and shut you down, just like you shut the students down. And one of the things about that, which is important, and I'm gonna get here. One of the things about that is important is that when you do that, when you're not being a liberator or revolutionary or taking the risk, what you're doing is you're committing genocide on a whole group of folks. And that's one of my issues with education. There are folks who are not qualified to be in front of our kids or should not be qualified to be in front of our kids. There are folks who are committing mass genocide, and it's mostly at the top, the executive boards, leadership, but folks who never been on the school board, never been a teacher on school board, on city, making rules and things of that nature. And what they're doing is they're failing a whole generation of students. And we are just handing them the key because we're not holding them accountable, right? And they're getting, part of it is they're getting away with it because we're not saying anything. And if you know anything about Dr. King was not assassinated for the dream. He was assassinated for the actions that came from the dream. Come on. That's why he was assassinated. That's why he was taken out, right? And most of us are dreaming without any actions, right? And I think, and when we have a dream, right? But the action, like the action that we are taking is in service of a system that do not love us, do not love the folks we are in front of. So what I'm saying is, it's really, it's not just a detriment of students, it's actually a detriment to your spirit. You just don't know it yet, right? It's going to catch up on you in a long run, because, yeah, I'm gonna stop there. That's it. I got you. That's it.
So Alexia, when you think about what Rakim just shared, and I want to highlight this piece because I think it cues it up real nice for you. Two things. One, Brooke said in chat that she had a principal take over a lesson because the students didn't know the answer to one of her questions. The second thing is, Benita Gordon says, we have to listen to our students. I had a class tell me I was moving too fast. I was trying to follow the pacing guide and I was off beat. I paused, reset, and listened to their beat. I love that framing. I listened to their beat. And I think about you, the dancer teacher, in line with this. So please help us understand what that looks like practically. What are some things that teachers could be doing to ensure that they're not marching to their own beat, if you will, that they're not making up their own steps, but they're listening for where their students are and responding to that rhythm?
Yeah, I think ultimately, and when I think about Dr. King, I think about community, and school is trying to take away a sense of community, just pushing out again what everybody has been saying all night, just people that are created to work a job for you, and that's that. And without love and community, then what do we have? What can we change without those things? And I think when I think about school, we go in, we hurry up, we got to get through this, we got to get to the test, everything is grind, 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 grind. And you don't even get to know the soul of your kids that are in front of you. You don't even get to know what they're thinking, what they need, what they want. So a really good thing to do is, incorporate time from the start of the day just to develop, conversations, get to know them. And it's going to look different from every grade level. For me, we start the day with music and movement, and we jump right in, and kids are eating breakfast, kids are talking to each other, talking to me, we're dancing, we're vibing. Like every morning we start the day off that way. And it's not traditional in what education looks like. Be quiet, sit down, get your stuff out. It completely is different than what the normal classroom would look like. And then before we even start to get to any academic content, you have to sit down and talk to your kids. It could be, we have something called a community meeting where every day we focus on, different things, different topics. We talk about, different things that I see the kids might be struggling with in the class. Last week, we worked on what is disappointment, and talking about when do you feel disappointed, and what does it look like at your house, and what does it look like at school, and how do you react to disappointment. So just getting to talk to the kids, and then that gives me a sense of knowing the way they react to things, so that I don't react in a certain way, because I'm getting to know my kids and their needs. And I think that's often lost in the system that has been created, that we don't value what our kids think and feel and need. And it could be, by design, and it could be, I don't really care. Like, I'm the person in charge, I'm the power at B, and I do what I say. It doesn't even matter. Or it could just be, I'm trying to get to the next thing and I don't got time. Like, but the thing is, if we created this time, how much more dynamic would your lessons be? How more, engaged would your students be in learning? How much more safe would they feel? How much more trust would they have in you? And eventually that will trickle down and down. What if every classroom started that way? What if every classroom had that? How much different would our kids be able to communicate? And the problems that we're seeing, like, not gonna deny that we ain't having knuck if you buck behavior all the time, like, but we have to, how do we get to the root of all of that? We have to talk to our kids. And I teach kindergarten, but at the studio, I teach up to high school. So when I'm having these conversations with my dance students, they're often like, yo, my teacher don't listen to nothing. Like, and they're telling me things because we have, like, even in my studio, like, I always make time to have that connection, have that communication. Some days if we can't dance because we got to get to talking what y'all need to talk about, then we not dancing, we talking. And they don't get that. They might not even get that at home. Just think about, how society has programmed us as parents. Do what I say, be quiet, do your homework. I ain't talking to you about nothing. Stay in a child's place. So even us as adults have not learned the value of healthy communication and how to have discussion and conversations with our kids to, you know, really see them as human beings and not just as property. So yeah.
Mm. Seeing them as human beings and not property. I asked a question in chat that I want to post to you all as well and see what folks are saying in the chat as well. But I think about the reality that, when you go into your classroom, sometimes it's seen as an interruption when someone who's a school leader or whatever walks in because they may not have the same mindset, mission, or values that you have with your students. Um, how could an administrator best support you as an educator to find and respond to the rhythm of your class? I want to kick that over to you, Rand, and then you, Eva.
That's a good question. I never really thought about it. I typically, it doesn't matter who comes in my room at any given point. They can just come in. It don't matter who it is or what I'm talking about. We could be talking about writing something. I can be talking about, some point in history and whatever. So it doesn't matter to me. I think for some teachers, though, it does matter. It does throw them off rhythm. It does throw them up for a loop because it's always like a, I got you moment, right? Or I'm coming in to see what you're doing and what you're not doing. Um, I think that there's a twofold thing for me. First, I think that it is incumbent upon administrators to put their teachers, their faculty at ease. As a leader, um, if I'm working with my students, I tell them at the beginning of the year, look, my goal is not to fail you. My goal is not to see you do horribly. If you do horribly, that's a reflection on me, and I'm not going to do horribly. So you're going to do well, just like I'm going to do well. And so when they already know that, you know, failure is not the desired goal. The goal is for them to learn. It puts them at ease, and I think that administrators have to do the same thing for teachers. They have to put them at ease to let them know I'm here to help you succeed. Because when you succeed, that means our young people have succeeded. So that I think is important. The second thing though is teachers just got to get some thicker skin, and I mean, it is what it is. I'm only saying it because I am a teacher, so I feel comfortable saying it. Teachers be whining, teachers be complaining, right? Don't nobody want to say it, but it is what it is. And sometimes who's doing it the most is usually those teachers that ain't really doing what they need to do for the kids and things of that nature. Because the ones that's doing what they supposed to do, they ain't complaining. They go with the flow. They go with the flow. They know how to maneuver, and they're gonna get done what they need to get done. So I think that teachers have to get a little bit thicker skin. Those that are so concerned, if you're doing your job, then there's nothing you have to worry about. That's the greatest piece of advice a mentor gave to me. Like, listen, if you're doing your job, no one can say anything because you're doing your job. And so I think understanding that, of course, you're keeping the young people safe. Of course, you're doing the mundane task and things of that nature. But if the kids are learning, if they're coming out of your room talking about what they learned, if they're struggling with some things, but you showing that you are making them think when you're doing those things. Administrators love that. They love knowing that these kids are learning with this teacher, because one, they're learning, right? And two, let's be real, administrators don't want no more problems than they already have to have. And if you're not giving them any, then they're good, right? So yeah, I think administrators have to work with their teachers. Teachers have to work with their administrators. They have to get the rhythm. They have to, I think that Alexia said it. I think Eva said the same thing. You got to understand your kids. You got to communicate with them, and you will be fine. But you got to go into it with the right mindset, the right rationale. Because if you're trying to fake it, if you out here not really caring, if you're worried about what's going to be for you when you move up and so and such and such, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. Tap in, Rakim.
How you looked at me, I felt like you was starting some controversy. Right? No, let me stop. So I think the number one admin thing that admin can do for most, I would say about like 85%, is get out of the way. Like honestly, like just get out of the way. Like for me, right? When I was assistant principal, I would tell teachers, hey, they were like, can we do this? I said, go on and do it. If it doesn't work, blame it on me. Say I did it. Say it was me. Say it was my idea. Put everything on me. And I think that that's one of the most important things is like get out of the way. Now, another thing that administrators can do to support teachers is to address the other 15% of teachers. I say 15%, right? And y'all know the ones we're talking about. When it's a staff meeting and the person you know that's a little out of order and probably shouldn't be teaching at the school, and you go in the group chat and you're talking about them. Most
Not the group chat.
No, it's true. Most of the time, teachers like us and folks like us are left with addressing the racist, sexist, bigot, whatever behavior, inappropriate behavior, as Claude Anderson would say, of those 15% of teachers, maybe 10, right? Because I think most teachers are in schools and they're doing the work, right? So I'm not, and I've seen that, like when 85% to 90% of my teachers do the work. And I think it's up to us, even in our schools, to hold those other folks accountable when they are not moving on mission or when they're not standing on business. And it's important. And it's important because that's an extra labor that we usually take on to have to address that foolishness, honestly, right? Also, administrators have to support teachers with getting the parents together too. Like, honestly, like if a parent came and tried to come at one of my teachers and I knew they're like doing the right thing, right? I'm going to hold that parent accountable. And we can go hand to hand. Like we can do this. I know y'all like to tussle. I was the administrator. I'm willing to tussle because I tussle with you as a parent. Then that takes, pressure off of the teacher to have to tussle with you. Like, you know your kid. Come on, like let's not do that. Like, come on, y'all. Like, your kid and I know your kid. And you're here and I'm here to make sure that regardless of what's happening, that your kid is better, right? Another thing, right? I think another thing is telling teachers, and just as a teacher, every opportunity that you try a new thing in class that you're doing it on behalf of students is an opportunity to grow. So what I tell folks, teachers, administrators, everything, don't miss your opportunity to grow. And if there's a situation at the school that is stopping the progress of teachers, then it's the administration's responsibility to address it accordingly regardless. So for me, I'm going to address it accordingly. And I mean, I lost my job because of it. I had to address it accordingly, right? And I think that's the role of an administrator, right? Like, you know, Dr. Ken always talks about like being like a good Samaritan, right? And a good shepherd. He talks about all these things. And I think as a leader, it like your responsibility is that teachers should not feel anything that's going on from up here. Like your job is to cover them. And just like teachers didn't know we were having money issues, funding issues, board issues, executive issues. They did not know, because it was my responsibility to never let what was going outside of teaching and learning to impact them in the classroom. So I think that's what it is to be a true leader, to make sure that teachers can get to the real teaching and learning and do their job uninhibited. No bathroom duty. I didn't get a master's degree to do bathroom duty. Like, no one should be doing. Honestly, I'm just keeping the buck. Like things like that is like a waste of a teacher's time. Like I didn't put no teachers on bathroom duty. I didn't put nobody on lunch duty. Like I didn't do that. I found other ways. I didn't have teachers subbing after they taught 5 classes, right? No, I went and I spent the extra money to hire subs, so that why would you teach a full schedule and then go sub for another class? Like, no, there's money in the budget for that. And another job, one more job of administrator, is to bring in experts inside of the school to support with the professional development. There's a lot of schools that teachers may be uncertified and they're teaching our kids. And just because you're uncertified and don't have a certification doesn't mean you're not qualified. However, when you are not when you're not certifying teachers or not supporting them with moving, you're locking them in an income that they can't move up in. So part of your job is to make sure that they're getting the most opportunities and creating opportunities from them as well. So that's from an administrator's point of view. Those are the things that I've done and would do. Protect time, like all of that stuff. I think that's what you got to do.
That's good. Let's jump in.
I mean, I think sitting on like an outside perspective as an educator, and the things that I noticed, like for my own personal, like, and I know leave teachers alone, but I also think that if we make it so that it's not I gotcha to have administrators in the room, like more of just checking on you, like getting the students to come in and see the admin. And it's not like, hey, yo, that's the security guard, because they confused on who it is because they never saw you but one time a year. So I think it's important for teachers to see that. I think it's important for, outside of a evaluation process, that principals see what greatness is happening. They're coming in, it's creating community and trust. The reason why we have so much mistrust is because of the way the system is designed, and people feel like they're out to get us. And like Rock was saying, like the pressure that is put on to admin from the top is now put onto admin, who now put it on to the teachers, who now put it on to the students. So like the system just keeps going and going and going. But if we find a way to like process it, see what's happening, like I would never want to place that burden onto my kids. So how I teach is very different than me, oh, we got to test, like we got to do this. Nah, I'm gonna be on y'all like, like, no, I'm gonna take a breath, because I wouldn't want it to be done to me. So we need to kind of reflect in our own practices all the way around to, make that change. I think admin need to understand, as far as like, putting the extra piling on of things onto us. And again, it's sometimes out of their control, because y'all got things y'all have to meet too. But I think if we all are given time, just like with our kids, to communicate these things, and in a staff meeting, instead of it being something about not like an email, we could have these open conversations so that people get to understand from different perspectives, and then we can create solutions to these things that are possible. But I mean, I know from sitting on a leadership team, like, and seeing the other side, like sometimes they hands is tied, y'all. Like admin can't really do as much as we think they can do. The money that be there don't really be there because they be like, oh, we got all this money, and they like, well, you can't spend it on this, or this. So what we gonna use the money for? Like it's crazy seeing it on the other side. So I do empathize with leadership and the things that they, have on their shoulders, seeing it from that perspective. But I also see it from an educator's perspective. And I think too, just, realizing and maybe stepping into different classrooms and maybe teaching a class, or because sometimes you lose focus in what the mission is because you're so far removed and you're so in that toxicity of the politicalness and everything that comes down and trickles onto you. So I think that's important for admin to get that experience back, and that feeling of what we feel when we work with the kids every day, and how, I would never want to be admin. Nope. Keep me out of that. Never. But I think the ghetto. But I give y'all all the power because I could never. But I think we just gotta understand from both sides, because it's coming from somewhere, that comes from somewhere, that comes from somewhere. And if we don't have, the self-awareness to see that we're putting that onto other people, then we're gonna keep perpetuating the same system over and over again.
I think that this is really important because King talked a lot about and modeled and fought for what he called beloved community. And when you think about what that means, I say this all the time: community happens when I make your problem my problem. In our schools, we have allowed for capitalistic understandings, individualistic understandings of how we navigate things to just wreak havoc on the community nature that should exist. Right. And so what happens in our schools is the admin problems then become, like you said, Lex, the teacher problems. And then the teacher problems then become the student problems. And the student problems then become the parent problems, who then go to the board meeting. And then it trickles all the way down again. And I think about this, and I want to kick it to y'all for because we're closing out. I want to honor your time. I think about the fact that when it comes to our future, how we move forward, when it comes to the essential question, there it is for our time, is the dream dead? I want to pose that to you all. Is the dream dead? One, you answer it however you feel. And then two, I want you to kind of, introduce, if people don't know how they can get in contact with you and connect with you, I want you to do that as well. So two questions. One, is the dream dead? Right? If you say yes, then tell me how we can breathe life or what we need to do in response. If you say no, then I need you to, Lord have mercy. Hold on. Boom. Okay, we're back. If you say no, then I need you to give us some direction as to how to navigate that as well. Does that make sense? So plug, let people know how to contact you, and is the dream dead? And I'm going to start with the ladies. Please go ahead, Eva, then Lex, and then Rakim, and then Rann, in that order. Go ahead.
I don't believe the dream is dead. I do think we need to come together to identify how the dream must expand. Mm-hmm. There were things that Dr. King had no way of knowing, right? And so parts of the dream, because of the ramifications of the time period in which he was alive and the time period for which came very, very quickly after he passed away, there are ramifications of the decisions that were made during that time, from a legal perspective, from a historical perspective, from a social perspective. So there needs to be a contemporary dream, which is an expansion of, again, everything that we are doing is always on the shoulders of giants. And so the folks that laid the groundwork, that did the work for us to get here, we need to honor that and then expand and say, what does it mean in the age that we are in, with the resources that we have, with the community that we have, with the increasing consciousness that we have, and how we're going to use that to continue to breathe life into the dream. I think that even to the last question around, like, we need to put people before paperwork. We need to put people before profit. We need to put people before, like, it's just insane to me how we can have an entire system that is meant to, even if it wasn't meant to breathe life into children, which we know that that's not what it was meant to do, but we recognize that that is what it is for now, or some of us do. We need to understand that if we are going to have children in a building for 8 hours a day, we need to have something to show for it. And the numbers are telling us that we don't got nothing to show for it. We got businesses talking about we don't got no one to take the jobs. We got AI that's coming to take the jobs that they didn't know that they needed to take. Can we talk about it? And so, like, it is not just, hey, we need to, like, dream a new dream and, like, give a speech and, like, be woo, woo, woo. Like, we got to fix something, because it is not within the realm of possibility for all these pretty little cute little things that we have in our lives to be gone. When we leave, the people who have ran the world into what it is now are the ones that are still choosing what the world looks like. And so I think that we have to become that serious about breathing life into the dream. Because if the intentionality behind breathing life into the dream doesn't become a reality for many of us, and for those of us who have not figured that out yet, yeah, we're gonna need y'all to join the train, honey. Because if you're sitting in this world and thinking, you know what, they've done a great job with this. We got genocide after genocide after genocide, and we're doing swell. If that's the mindset, yeah, read a book or two now. Because, like, I can't do it. And so if you want to continue conversations with me, you can follow me at Black on Black Ed. We're everything student voice, because we recognize that, like, within the education system, the stakeholder is the students. It is not the parents. It is not the administration. It's not the board. I don't care about none of that. I don't care where your hands are tied. I really don't care. If it's not helping the children, you don't have to like me, and that's okay. I'm gonna keep doing what I need to do for them. Sorry. And so, like, I could be the one that ruffles a little feathers. I'm fine with it. In this teacher shortage, it's all right. I'll find another job. And so I think it's just, it's having that energy and recognizing being student-centered is the only way to work in this education system, which means that admin need to be teacher-centered, which means that they need to be me-centered. And that's for everybody across the board. I've been talking about self-care since I started this organization. Take care of yourself, people. Go to the gym. Go walk around the block. Go sip some tea. I'm gonna have my little red cherry tart juice after this and get me some good sleep. Okay? Because the biggest resistance that we can do is be well. The biggest one. Out of, like, yeah, we can save the world and make a new system and do all the things. If I'm not happy, then none of that matters. So I'm gonna keep trying to find that in this little healed body that I got mad trauma to heal from. Yeah, I'm working on it. And I'm gonna continue to work on it. And if it means I'm not grading that paper, then I'm not grading it. If it means I'm not teaching today and I'm putting on a movie, that's what it means. Sorry. And if that don't work for you, admin, get somebody else to do it. I'll find another job. All right, that's me. Bye, y'all.
Tap in, Lex.
All right. So, of course, the dream is not dead. The dream is ever present and alive, but as a community and the collective working together to ensure that things are changing and the work is being put in so that the dream can continue, so that we can continue to create the change that is needed in this time to motivate and educate and inspire the children that are coming up for the future so that they can create the change that we need for the dream to continue. It was a starting point and it continues. It's a marathon. It's not the end of the race. I feel like the dream is living through all of us on here. It's living through great educators that are tapped in the chat. It's living through so many educators throughout the country that are invested in doing this work. to doctors and all the people that are involved in creating great change in the educational space. And I just feel like we have to continue to have these conversations, continue to be involved with people that are in this work so we can be sustained in this work, because sometimes it can get difficult, it can get scary, it can get the work be hard. It be difficult, and if you don't have people to support you in the process, it can tear you down, it can weigh you down, and you can get, you know, a little defeated. And we're in a defeated space, just like Eva was saying, your self-care goes out the window, and then you're not really helpful to anybody. So I think we have to continue to really focus on that, and focus on community healing. That includes unlearning, relearning, self-discovery, and community healing starts with us. So we have to be healed in who we are, be self-aware, so that we can, you know, give that to our kids. And it starts with our youngest children, from how we parent them, you know, making sure that we are changing the way we parent, conscious parenting, and making sure that we have space for trust and healing, and giving our kids something that we never had, so that they can pass that down from generation to generation, and that we can heal together so that we can create greater change. So yeah, and embed love and joy, because if that's not the foundation, then we have nothing. I want to give a shout out, because these are two queens that are doing the work. If you do not have Woven Together by Dr. Courtney Rose, y'all better tap in and get the book, okay? Because she is someone that is showing the dream in real time. And my queen, for all you early educators, and not, we got Beyond February, okay? So if you are one of the teachers that says, yo, it's not in my curriculum, well, get this book, and it will help you with different ways to make sure that you are teaching Black histories all year long, not just for one day or in February, kind of ish. So tap in, and that is by, yes, we be reading, okay? Get you a book, read it. And that is by the future Dr. Donovan James. So support the community. There's so many people doing the work, and I'm so proud of, you know, to see all of y'all, and just to see the great things that you're doing. You inspire me every single day. So let's continue this work, y'all.
Rann, tap in.
To answer the question, no, the dream is not dead. The dream is an interwoven part of the Black radical tradition, which can never die, which will never die. As long as there is white supremacy in this world, Black people, African people will be around to fight it in every corner, on every inch of the earth. And so by no means is the dream dead. And that encourages me each and every day. Some of us fight with the pen, some of us fight with our mouths, even some fight with the fists, but nevertheless, we will continue this fight. I just want to again thank Bobby for you putting this thing together. It has been a privilege and honor to sit on this panel with such brilliant people, or folding chair. Yes, that is correct. 100%. It has been a privilege to sit with such brilliant minds, just building on this work that we do on behalf of young people who look and sound and think just like us. To plug anything, you know, you can follow me on Twitter, Real Rann Miller. I have a couple of articles out that just came out. One on MLK in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Another article came out the other day in Truth Out, just talking about the ski mask ban that's going on in Philly, and things of that nature. But you follow me, you'll find a number of my different articles. www.randmiller.com. That's where all my articles, informations, things are. And also my book, Resistance Stories from Black History for Kids, the expanded edition, comes out February 4th.
Come on, book.
Huh?
I said, come on, book. Yeah.
Listen. The first book came out last year in March, 39 stories. This book is coming out with an additional 21. So 60 stories altogether, building on what was done last year. So you can go pick that up on Amazon February 4th and share that with the babies, but it's also for the family as well. So again, appreciate being in this space. Thank y'all.
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I said it in the beginning. Is the dream dead? No, the dream's not dead. It's in us and all around us. Is the system in which we operate? Is that dead? Yes, I believe it's dead. Right. I want to just go and I'm gonna couch this in a case story. Right. If I'm gonna give some articles and stuff like that. One of the most important movies I've seen, and we talk about Dr. King, but The Rebellious Life of Rosa Parks, right? And it was great. I was at the Schomburg and they put it out. So if you don't, I think it's on. Look it up. You don't get it. It's phenomenal, right? And they talked about the Montgomery bus boycott, right? And y'all know it lasted 381 days, over 50,000 participants, right? We all know the history, right? And usually, like Dr. King gets the thing, the accolades for coming to speak, but it's really Rosa Parks and Black women who like really pushed that movement together, right? Just to put it there, right? But the one thing folks don't know about the importance of the Montgomery bus boycott is the importance of teachers, right? And let me tell you what these teachers did. The teachers inside of the school, to get the word out, gave the students papers to go home to bring to their parents and told them, don't take this out until you get home. So think about all those students and children in Montgomery, and everyone went home with a paper to their parents to get the word out. Not only did they get the word out, the students who were going on the bus and was being bused to school was boycotting too. They didn't take the buses to school either, right? As a case study, because I'm asking you as teachers who are inheritors of the dreams, administrators, as people who are inheritors of the dream, what are you giving your kids to go home with? What are you giving them to go home with, into the community with, right? The only way, right? Like that was important. That's why they were able to sustain it for 381 days, because everyone got the message. Everyone was standing on business because the students went and got the message. Mm-hmm. And it was no social media and stuff back then. Of course, it's in the newspapers and stuff like that. But every teacher gave the students the pamphlet to give to them. So I just want to ask you, what are you passing to your community through your students, right? What are you teaching them to take out into the world, right? Because the schools in your classroom is a reflection of the society in which you're trying to create, right? How they feel about their neighborhood, how they feel they don't have to go outside of their neighborhoods to get resources, but they see the resources in their communities that they have and that they can build and that they can expand. So, like you all said, we are inheritors of the dream. We are practitioners of the dream. But Dr. King said, faith without deeds are dead. So what deeds are you doing in your day-to-day life to keep the dream alive? Knowing the system in which we are operating in. We have to, like you said, we have to breathe the dream. We have to live the dream. We have to enact the dream, right? And we have to take care of ourselves while we dream, right? We have to dance through the dream, write through the dream, sing through the dream, right? Like we got to do all of that stuff because that's the importance of it, right? And that's how we keep the dream alive. My principal, Tyler Griffin, he used to say all the time, which his mentor gave to him. He said, Rakim, every time when you come in this building, I want you to be the standard. Be the standard. folks should be able to look at you and how you operate inside this educational space and be like, this is the standard, right? So for me, if we're going to really push this thing forward and expand on the dream and move the dream forward and think and dream a new dream and all of those be the standard. And I'm gonna leave with that. That catch me on Instagram, the Insightful Teacher. I promise in the new year I will start posting again. I will start doing this. Bobby, thank you. Y'all are phenomenal. Thank you for being in the community. It's great being in community with you all. And right now, as you said, this was what Dr. King saw when he went to the mountaintop. So all of us, all of you, and what we are about to do.
Well, let me just say how appreciative I am of each and every single one of you all, those in chat, and of course my esteemed panel here for tapping in and for being a part of this discussion. Um, I'm just going to echo what you all have said. Is the dream dead? Absolutely not. When you go to your classrooms tomorrow, I just got word that we got a 2-hour delay. Come on, somebody. So I'll be in there a little bit later tomorrow. But when you look in the eyes of those babies that you get the honor and privilege of teaching, the dream is alive in their eyes. The dream is alive when they walk into your school. The dream is alive when you think about the legacy from which we are teaching, right? Because just like it was said in chat, teaching is political. We stand on the shoulders on this way before we even got here, right? And so, is the dream dead? Only if you let it die, and then it's only dead in you. And so, my thing is, let us continue to walk and talk and live and breathe because our babies deserve it. They deserve the dream. They deserve every single thing that you put out there for their best. And when you're not your best, make sure you own that. You live up to being the standard, just like Rakim said. So my hope is, educators, if you came into this and you were down and you felt like none of this was making sense, you're ready to leave and all of that. Remember, right? Yet now the mission will carry on with or without you. At the same time, think about how much better it is if you can continue to breathe life into the dream for those who are coming after you. And so my hope is that encourages us, that brings us, we can walk in tomorrow with our dancing shoes on. Shout out to Lex. Yeah. So thank y'all for tapping in. Thank y'all for joining us, and much more to come. So if you have not already, shameless plug, hit the subscribe button. We are absolutely doing this more often and continuing into this year. So hit the subscribe button, share this with 5 people, and thank y'all so much for being here. All right. Till next time, y'all. Peace.